What's up, you guys? If you haven't already noticed, Neural DSP has been putting out their X versions of their plugins for quite some time now, adding awesome bells and whistles to things that older plugins didn't have that newer ones did, and just kind of improving the overall experience of the plugin. Recently, they did the Fort Nameless, and I did a video just like this one for that plugin. If you haven't watched that yet, go check that out. But today we're going to be taking a look at the X version of the Soldano SLO100 and trying to get a couple usable mix tones out of this plugin. So what I did with the Fort Nameless was I basically just ran through the process of me trying to dial in a tone so that you can see the entire process of that and my thinking and my tinkering with all the different settings and stuff, as opposed to just all of a sudden hearing the good tone without seeing how it came to be. And so we're going to go through and try to find a good rhythm tone and a good lead tone to my best ability and what I think sounds good in a mix when I'm mixing. So that's what we're going to do today. There's not going to be a whole bunch of edits. This is going to be just kind of a run-on video so you can see the entire process from beginning to end. And that's pretty much just it. So if this is not the style of video you like, sorry, but this is to help those who like to see the whole process. And yeah, let's just kind of dive right into it without sounding cliche. So we got the default setting here. It's obviously very muddy and dark, so we're going to change that. First of all, let's switch over to the crunch channel because the overdrive I'm going to reserve for the lead tone. Crunch channel is going to be our rhythm tone because the less gain we have, the better, in my opinion, especially for mixing. You want some gain, but the less you have, especially if you're layering guitars, the better and more clean it's going to sound because it's not going to get muddy with a bunch of gain stacked on top of each other. So we're going to turn on the second overdrive here. And we're already off to a decent start. So let's turn that bass down because that bass is too much, just way too much. And we're going to turn down the depth a little bit. Let's crank up the treble and the mids because we need a little more out of that. So it's getting there, right? So we got... It's getting there. It's getting there. Let's actually add the second overdrive. That's doing a lot there. Turn the drive down. I hate drive so much. Turn that gate up a little bit to take out some of the... it's gonna be in there. So it's already a decent sound with that. Yeah, we're using two overdrives, but hey, whatever gets you the sound. For the amp here, I think we're pretty decent on where I want the settings for the most part. But let's pull up over here as I fumble to find a spot for my fingers, but honestly, I'm not going to mess with the mics. I think that's a good setup there. I'm going to turn on a low or a high pass, a little low here. Gonna pull up a little bit of 2K, pull down a little bit of 250. That was a little too much. Ooh, fumble. Okay, not too bad. Not too shabby, but there's still something missing. Let's start to sound a little thin, so maybe add a little more of the depth back. Okay, so I'm getting the kind of clanky attack that I'm looking for, especially. I can get the or right. So that's a good spot. That's usually when I find that the sound or tone that I'm looking for is starting to work in the favor of myself and the sounds that I like to find. They usually tend to work out decent in a mix, I think. But, there's maybe a bit too much of a fizz going on, so I'm going to turn down some of the 16K. So, honestly, and again, it's hard to make this amp sound too bad unless I'm just completely delusional about my own tone-making abilities. This is a decent spot for a good mix tone, okay? So I want to reiterate that. I didn't say it at the beginning. I'm dialing mix tones, something that's going to fit good in the context of a mix. Not necessarily something you would play live with, although I think they kind of... A mixed tone is somewhat comparable to what you should have live, because you should have a good mix on your live setup too, but it's a very different scenario playing live. But I find that people tend to dial them differently when you're dialing a tone for in the studio and a tone for playing live. They tend to be a little bit different, but that's why this sounds maybe a little more thin than you would otherwise like to hear yourself playing, because again, this is meant to be put in a mix and fit in the slot of where the guitar belongs. And I think, honestly, that's a good spot. So, I would stack that up and double track this for a song. I would still end up, tweaking a lot of things per song, but this is a good off point for a good rhythm tone. I actually came to it a lot quicker than I thought it would. So let's call it mix red E rhythm. And I think we hit it. I think we got that. So, as you can see, basically crunch tone with a little bit of gain. Definitely use an overdrive for that modern metal sound, especially that clanky sound that we all love to get. I don't like using drive on the overdrive pedals. I really don't. It just muddies stuff too much and adds more gain than what is necessary. Level is always cranked up. We turned down the bass. We turned up the middle and treble a little bit and turned the depth down maybe slightly, or we put it back to default. I don't remember what it was at default, but we got the bright switch on, which does help. Didn't really mess with what the default was here for the mic combos, because a 57 and a dynamic 421 usually work really well together. No, not delete. with the EQ, didn't really do much. We did a little bit of 2K boost for that vocal kind of mid-range, turned a little bit of 16K down because of the fuzz, and that's about it. And we've got a decent enough tone, at least with this guitar in my setup. And there we go. We got a rhythm tone. So now let's reset, go to default, and let's dial in a good lead tone. So there's going to be some similarities, if I'm being honest. But now we're going to go into the overdrive section, where things are remarkably muddier. So we're going to turn that bass down and the depth because fucking do not need it. So turn my output up a little bit so I can hear myself. And honestly, this could be a good rhythm tone right now. But it's still a little bit too thwompy, a little too bass heavy. But we'll correct that. And especially turning on the overdrives definitely does that a bit. It definitely cranks down. So we're off to a good start there. I'll leave the drive on the lead tone, I guess. Yeah, why not? We got the air switch on, or high-end boost, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it's already a decent-ish tone right there. But I do want to add some delay, because fuck yes, delay. Honestly decent right there. But the thing is, I like to have a bit of a sear, you know? So, we might have hit that a lot sooner than I anticipated, but how can we improve this a little bit? How can we really make this soar? Let's add the 2K in, because that's definitely a vocal range. Oh man, I just love that kind of sound. Even if I fuck up. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say we've reached a decent tone, and that maybe should speak bounds about their Neural DSP's plugins, and specifically the infamous or famous Soldano SLL100, because this thing just, it works really well, and it packs a lot of gain and a lot of very nice sounding gain for this specific purpose. Hence why it was used so much, and a lot of amps were created off of the backs of the Soldano. think we reached it. We didn't really do a whole shit ton, but we got there. And I think, honestly, this would fit in a mix really well. Let's call it a clanky mix ready lead. Bam. And we've got our users here. I have Soldano shit was a preset that I made back when the original SLO plugin came out. I like to be funny with names, but there we go. We got a mix ready rhythm and a clanky mix ready lead, and I think these both work really well. So hopefully this process helped you out in how to dial your own. I know a lot of other videos will just kind of be like, hey, this is a cool tone, download the preset. And yes, that's nice to have if you can get the presets and you can get an immediate feedback of a good tone, but everyone's setup and signal chain differs. Like I've got a PreSonus Studio 24C preamp with my XLR cables for my mic and the quarter-inch cable to my guitar with my very specific guitar and the pickups it has and the strings that I use and how clean or old the strings are and the tuning and how hard I play, how hard I pick, what picks I use. Everything matters. So it's going to differ a little bit from person to person. So learning the process like this is really helpful. I remember thinking that way as well. I just want the presets, give me the ready tones. But once you start doing mixing on your own, you start to find things kind of vary from song to song. You do different things to fit the context of a song, and being able to know where to go to change the settings to get to a sound that you want is infinitely helpful to be able to do. So hopefully this helps you a little bit. Again, if you didn't see this style video on the Fort Nameless, go check that out. Let me know if this helped you out down in the comments. And otherwise, let's make some fucking amazing tones, guys. This is a crazy era for us guitar players, and I'm embracing it to the fullest extent, and you should too. So thank you guys so much for watching. Watch all the videos on your screen right now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Stay metal, my friends.